Is Vince McMahon slowly losing power in TKO Holdings as this week he sells 8.4 million shares, around 25 to 30% of his overall shares in the entire company? What does this mean? And why did Vince McMahon unload so much stock this week? We'll talk about it right here on OTS. Also, I got major Survivor Series shakeups. I got returns from injury right before the Survivor Series. All this plus so much more right here on Off the Script. And we will start with Vince McMahon. I'm going to start at the very beginning of this story, which led to Vince McMahon and the major news this week that he sold 8.4 million shares in TKO Holdings. It was this week during their first earnings call on Tuesday where TKO detailed how Vince McMahon is a risk to their business. They had their first earnings call on Tuesday, and they filed a supplement with shareholders that summarized a number of risk factors for the company, one of which is one of the company's most public figures, Vince McMahon. According to the SEC filing, McMahon's board membership could lead to negative publicity and or have other adverse financial and operational impacts. We all knew this. This is not new information. Furthermore, the filing says that McMahon could open the company up to additional scrutiny or otherwise exacerbate the other risks described herein. The filing details the special committee that investigated McMahon last year, as McMahon has been found to be using company funds to make hush money payments to former employees who had been alleging harassment and abuse at the hands of McMahon and former head of talent relations scumbag John Laurinaitis. Now, the language of the filing indicates the investigation into McMahon was closed, but that further hush money payments were found and reimbursed. The filing also warns that the investigation, as well as further expenses that could occur due to said investigation, could pose a financial risk to the company. WWE has not lost any business due to the investigation, but the investigation could still change the perceptions of the company's business partners. Of course, that's just common sense. Then we find out that Vince McMahon unloads 8.4 million shares of his TKO stock. According to a press release and documents that TKO filed with the SEC, McMahon sold 8.4 million shares of the company's Class A common stock, which as of close of the stock market on Thursday was well over $700 million, $713 million to be exact. In after-hours trading on Thursday, the TKO stock price was down roughly 5.3% with the news of McMahon's sale. The SEC filing notes that TKO CEO Ari Emanuel and TKO COO Mark Shapiro intend to buy 1 million of the stock McMahon is putting up for sale, with other company directors set to purchase $850,000 worth of stock. Additionally, TKO Group Holdings will repurchase approximately $100 million worth of the stock. Now, McMahon remains the executive chairman of TKO Group Holdings. The company was created by a merger between WWE and UFC, and that was finalized in September, as you guys know. The stock sale comes after a mixed bag of results from Q3 of 2023 for TKO and an SEC filing from the company stating that McMahon's membership on our board could have adverse financial and operational impacts on our business. You know, a lot of people are going to go right to McMahon is done. They're phasing McMahon out. He's losing his power, which he is, because he now has given up 25% of his overall share in the company. So yes, just by looking at it numbers-wise, he has taken a hit as far as his power goes in the company. The way that I see it, I don't see this as a huge deal yet. It's something that is going to turn into a huge deal, and it's something to certainly keep an eye on. Now, I've been doing some research on this. I'm not a business guy. I don't really put myself in this situation to really go out there and talk about on a normal basis. Obviously, this is a big enough news story where I have to cover it. I don't think that they're phasing McMahon out yet. I think that's the ultimate goal. I think everybody knows here that McMahon is a liability to the company, and I think Ari Emanuel is going to slowly phase him out, and I do think that McMahon is having a negative effect on the company. I do, in all aspects. No matter if it's WWE television, his name being brought up in creative, they removed him from the creative spot, they gave that to Triple H 100%, and now he is just this dark cloud looming over the entire company. The way that I see it, there's two things that are going on here. Number one, the stock price was $105 around September 2023. We're now looking at the stock at $79.26 as of close on Friday afternoon. Now, that's a huge hit. Why are they taking a huge hit like that? I don't really know what the main reason is. Endeavor is $4 billion in debt. They want to take the company private. Silver Lake is a majority owner in TKO. They want to take the company private potentially, and they may want to buy out the entire company. There's also a rumor going around that Endeavor could potentially be sold to the Saudis. Now, I don't know how true that is. So keep an eye on that. That's something that certainly will continue to develop as we go into the new year. Is Endeavor prepping themselves for a sale? I don't know. But the stock price from $105 down to $79, something internally is going on there. You throw Vince McMahon on top of that, his looming public image is not really a good look for the overall stock either. Now, the stockholders were disappointed with the SmackDown TV rights negotiations where they just signed with NBCU. They're leaving Fox, and they only got a $1.3 billion deal for that. So WWE didn't really go out there and get the money that they were kind of promising the shareholders on the SmackDown deal. They were getting $1 billion from Fox over 5 years. They upped that to $1.3 billion over 5 years with NBCU. Shareholders were looking at 1.6, 1.7, maybe closer to $2 billion for the WWE product with a possible renewal from Fox or the USA Network, NBCU. They only got $1.3 billion. Monday Night Raw right now still does not have a home. Nobody knows where they're going to go. NXT just signed with the CW network. They're getting $30 million roughly for 4 or 5 years. I don't know the exact year number, but they're making more money in TV rights for NXT than they ever had, ever in the history of the company. So nobody knows where Monday Night Raw is going. That's a looming issue. That's obviously going to worry the shareholders as well. What is Monday Night Raw going to get? If SmackDown got $1.3 billion, I can't see Monday Night Raw getting more than SmackDown when SmackDown's coming from the flagship Fox. And that's been basically the flagship show for WWE over the last 5 years. I can't see Monday Night Raw getting more than $1.3 billion. If that, it may come in a little less for Monday Night Raw or just about the same for Raw. And we don't know where they're going to go. ESPN and FX have been rumored homes for WWE. Disney, right, owns ESPN. They, right now, are in debt as well. They're losing money due to their film division. And Warner Brothers Discovery was also noted in the stories about potentially landing Monday Night Raw. They posted losses as well. Same thing with Disney, or Warner Brothers, I should say, just like Disney with their film division losing money. Even though Barbie, I think, took in almost $2 billion worldwide. So even that is not going to offset the debt that Warner Brothers Discovery has right now. Fox is 100% out of the picture for Monday Night Raw, and that was indicated by Fox president in a recent interview. I don't know where Monday Night Raw is going to go. So you take all this into consideration, plus on top, Vince McMahon obviously ousted here, and it needed to be detailed to the shareholders that he's a public liability, he's a financial risk to their overall business numbers. Vince has seen the writing on the wall here with the stock coming down and Monday Night Raw kind of in limbo, not probably going to get the amount of money that Monday Night Raw is worth. SmackDown didn't really generate the amount of money that the shareholders were expecting for SmackDown. Vince has taken all this into consideration. Maybe he sees darker days coming and he sold the stock and he's trying to cash in now before it gets any worse, and it looks like it's going to continue to decrease. and it looks like it's going to continue to get worse. I don't know. But again, at the end of all this, I told you months ago, it was never about a sale of the company. It's about what's best for Vince and what Vince McMahon thinks is right for him. It doesn't matter. His family doesn't matter. The fucking people that he employs doesn't matter. It's always about Vince McMahon. And at the end of the day, even though he got caught and he seemingly got away with it, he should be in fucking jail. And I hope that is still a possibility, you know, with the investigation still looming. Because it's always going to be a dark cloud over his head as well. He doesn't give a shit. It was never about a sale of the company. It was always about what is going to be best for Vince McMahon. This was a power play to get him back in charge. And I don't know, man. I don't want to put my conspiracy theory cap on, but he sold the company to someone that he thought was a very close personal business friend. But at the end of the day, it's always going to be about business. It's not going to be about that friendship. He sold it to Ari Emanuel thinking that I'll sell it to this guy. I'm going to go right back to where I was with even more power potentially. And it seemingly looks like they are slowly phasing him out, and he knows that. And I love to see it. It's not happening yet because Vince McMahon still holds his position within TKO. He still owns about 20 million shares. It's not going anywhere. But at the end of the day, this is definitely the start of something. Like my guy Andrew Bay Dallas said on TNT several weeks ago when we discussed this, Ari Emanuel and TKO are playing chess. This is a slow move. Vince McMahon's not going to unload all of his shares and all of his stock in one fell swoop because he's going to try and save some of that for the back end in case things do get better. And if he does unload everything, he doesn't want to make a huge public scene that the ship is sinking because it's not a good business move for the WWE. It's not a good business move for Endeavor. But all of this being taken into consideration, the potential deal to the Saudis, Monday Night Raw not getting a TV deal yet, SmackDown coming in less than projected, his image, the stock coming down from $105 in September to where we see it now, just under $80, Endeavor in $4 billion in debt. A lot of this is coming into play. This is something I don't really know about, but this is just the shit that's on the surface. We don't know what internally is going on with Endeavor, with WWE, UFC. We don't know. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. You know, this is not cause for celebration yet. Don't pop the champagne. Don't go out and buy the balloons and the streamers. Don't start setting up the parade yet for Vince McMahon's removal. But on the surface, you know, him selling 8.4 million shares, he does take a hit in power. So he is less powerful today than he was at the start of the week. That's something I'm going to closely keep an eye on personally. But at the end of the day, we don't really know what's going on. Something to keep an eye on. I'll keep you guys updated on Vince McMahon as the news continues to come in. There's just a lot of moving parts here. A lot of moving parts. And we'll keep you guys updated the best we can. Moving on. WWE is expected to make more cuts. Obviously, this goes in line with what's happening there. Ari Emanuel and Endeavor want to secure that their bottom line is okay and that they are making money, so WWE is expected to make more cuts. This is coming from, now they said this the first time, it was only going to be office cuts, but then it leaked to the roster, and we got a whole slew of roster cuts, so I don't really believe that it's just going to be office cuts. I do think that there will be more talent cuts as well. In September, it was believed that WWE was going to make cuts, and they did. They cut over 100 employees, and WWE made talent cuts as well that hit the main roster and NXT pretty hard. In the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer recapped the TKO earnings call on Tuesday, pointing out that they noted there would be more cuts coming to the corporate side. I don't really believe it's going to stay corporate. I don't believe anything these suits and ties say. They want to make you think that it's not that big of a deal. We're just going to make some office cuts, and then it leads to main roster cuts, NXT cuts, and then, you know, poor men and women got to lose their fucking jobs, both on the TV and in the office. But you knew this was going to happen. Mergers like this usually is a terrible thing, and people will lose their jobs. Meltzer wrote, the company noted that there will be a great decrease in expenses in eliminating jobs in IT, marketing, finance, human resources, and legal when it comes to overlapping personnel in UFC and WWE who can do those jobs for both companies. They expect to save $50 million to $100 million, and the figure was said to be expected to be the high end of this range, with 75% of the savings being on the books for 2024. This is not new information. Now, we thought that the cuts were done in September. They're clearly going to still be a thing going into 2024. We just don't know how much. But like I said, and like Andrew Baydala has documented on TNT when we're live on Tuesdays, mergers like this are dirty. They are bad. It's terrible for the men and women who work for both WWE and UFC. But at the end of the day, you know, when Endeavor bought WWE and they merged WWE and UFC together, a lot of those departments where Endeavor already had that and they have their people, they're buying WWE. They're not going to need the WWE side. They're not going to need the WWE departments when they have those same departments on their end. So they're just going to cut jobs. And yeah, it sucks, but that's just the nature of the beast. And you knew this was coming. You know, I feel bad, but at the end of the day, I also don't feel bad because everybody expected this to happen. I'm more worried about what happens to the effect of television. So we'll see if it does bleed again, the next round of cuts, if it bleeds back to the main roster and it bleeds onto NXT again. We'll see what happens. WWE is also set to introduce a new way of advertising during their shows. Again, this is not new information, and we all kind of predicted that when Endeavor bought WWE that there would be some of that UFC style and presentation and mentality bleeding onto WWE television. In the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer also reported that WWE is looking to have advertisements placed at ringside. AEW and UFC have advertisements at ring and at cage side. Meltzer wrote, another change you can expect is the look of the ringside area. In the past, Vince McMahon was a proponent of a clean ring, meaning no advertisements on the mats, the barricades, or around the ring. I'm actually with Vince McMahon on that. Ari Emanuel's the one in charge now, so UFC does it, and if it means more to their bottom line, they're going to do it with WWE as well. Obviously, that has changed due to the influence of Nick Khan. They noted that Vince McMahon is no longer thinking that way and that advertising in and around the ring will be opening up more advertising inventory, and they are very happy McMahon has agreed to it. I mean, Vince McMahon can agree to it or not agree to it. He's not the only one making that decision, whereas years ago, you know, it would rest at the feet of Vince McMahon and he would be the ultimate decision maker. If he didn't want it, he didn't want it. If he wanted it or wanted anything, he's going to go out there and want it. He's only one now, and he doesn't have ultimate power in the grand scheme of things. He's one board member of 11 here. So there's 6 on the Endeavor side and 5 on the WWE side. He's only one vote. If he gets fucking 10 other votes of yes, and he's the only one no, yes, he agrees to it. He has to agree to it. He's not in the same position of power anymore. So yeah, AEW does it. You've seen it with Fight Forever. You see it with DraftKings. They got the DraftKings logo on the mat. That's just the subtle way of AEW kind of bleeding into that type of market. We haven't seen it in the ring with WWE yet. But when they have a sponsored advertisement for a match, you'll see it all around the LED barricades around ringside. You'll see it on the ring apron. You'll see it on the Titantron, whether it's Cinnamon Toast Crunch or Mike's Hard Lemonade or whatever they're promoting. WWE will do that, and they'll throw it right in your face. They'll have the CGI graphics before the match, sponsored by so-and-so. WrestleMania, there were several different matches sponsored by, a different advertiser here and a different sponsor there. So you're going to see that more, especially with their bigger shows. Royal Rumble. We may see a Royal Rumble match sponsored by a major sponsor. And WrestleMania, that goes without saying. But UFC does it. And that's just one of the things that a lot of people predicted with the sale of WWE into Endeavor, that they would be incorporating that UFC-style advertisement presentation. That's not the only thing that it's going to stop with. WWE is going to probably adopt a pay-per-view model, the same way that UFC does it, where you got to sign up to an ESPN or whichever streaming service WWE is on, and if you want to watch their specific pay-per-views like the Big Five, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, you're going to have to pay a premium to sign up to the subscription service and then pay for the actual event through the streaming service, because that's what UFC does on ESPN Plus. So that's a long ways from coming. I mean, we got till 2025 for that, but you can see where they're doing, most of their business. They're going to be adopting some of that UFC model. We'll see if that does take place, but right now, this is not new information. The advertisements on the mat and around ringside, this is not new this is not new at all. And this has been predicted by a lot of different people in and around the community, and something that WWE was eventually going to adopt. So we'll keep an eye on that. And when you see it, you know that it's going to slowly start being implemented on TV. Let's get to some creative stuff, man. Let's get to some on-air stuff within WWE and AEW. Longtime AEW star might be gone from the company. The Bunny is done with the company. Nobody's going to lose sleep over this roster move. The Bunny was one of AEW's earliest signings. Her signing was announced in March of 2019, and she debuted at the Fyter Fest show in a match against Leva Bates. Man, that sounds forever ago. She defeated Brandy Rhodes at the Fight for the Fallen pay-per-view in 2019, and then was repackaged as a darker character alongside Butcher and real-life husband, The Blade. So WWE is not interested in the Bunny. She's not going to WWE. I know Impact, possibly back to Impact. I think she was actually killed off on TV, on Impact Television. I don't know. I don't really care. But several people have noted that the Bunny and her profile has been removed from AEW's roster page on the website. Who cares? I don't know. I mean, it's funny, man. You got people scouring the roster page to find clues about what's going on with the roster. And people were on WWE's roster page and noticed that CM Punk's alumni profile was updated on WWE.com. How the fuck do you know that, and why are you there? You got nothing else better to do with your life, huh? The Bunny was removed from the roster page, which then people are now claiming that she is not with the company any longer. Who gives a shit? She was a non-factor on television anyway, and she's probably better off somewhere else, even though her husband still works there. Who cares? This is a roster move that will not hurt the company in any way whatsoever, and you're not going to lose sleep over it. Let's go to WWE. Return plans for an absent WWE star may have pushed back, and I got news on an injured WWE star also returning soon. AJ Styles and Sheamus. PW Insider is reporting that while the original plan was for AJ to return to SmackDown this week, they heard that it may have been pushed back and are working on confirming it. Now, Styles hasn't worked a match since September 15th. That was an episode of SmackDown where he put over Finn Balor. The former WWE star was written off TV when the Bloodline attacked him. That's what the report from PW Insider says. Former WWE star. He is a WWE star. He's just not on TV right now. AJ Styles. I don't know where he fits in. I really don't. I predicted that when Styles gets back, he's going to pick up a feud with Roman Reigns. I thought maybe potentially at Survivor Series, if Roman Reigns was going to work Survivor Series and not be in War Games, a match with AJ Styles is innocent enough in Chicago where it could be a banger. Obviously, from what we've seen on television, Roman Reigns is not going to be at Survivor Series in a wrestling capacity because he wasn't on last night's show. He's not advertised for next week's show, and it's going to be too late for him to get into a title program for Survivor Series. Does WWE change what they've announced for the Men's War Games match to include the Bloodline and to include Roman Reigns? I don't know. It may be too late for that. WWE is still going out there having LA Knight saying he wants another shot at Roman Reigns and that Jimmy and Solo Sikoa ruined his chance at taking the Universal Heavyweight Championship from Roman Reigns. So it looks like they may be doing Roman LA Knight Part 2. I don't know why anybody would want to see that because LA Knight's not winning the championship. He's not. I'll get to the War Games situation in a second, but Styles, they may be holding it back and waiting till after Survivor Series because he doesn't really factor into anything right now. Now, I'll get back to Styles, but Royal Rumble's coming up. There's no pay-per-view in December. January, we got the Royal Rumble, and I could see AJ Styles building a program with Roman Reigns at Royal Rumble because, again, Roman's not losing the championship until WrestleMania, until he wrestles Cody. So WWE is going to have to factor in getting Roman some opponents that he could easily beat while maintaining some decent matches until we get to WrestleMania. AJ Styles definitely falls into that category. So we'll see what happens. I'm predicting Styles Roman at Royal Rumble. Innocent enough, not going to really do anything for Styles, and it's somebody for Roman Reigns to just blow through until we get to WrestleMania. So I think they're waiting for that and a little bit closer to the build for that. I'll get back to Styles in a second because he could factor into Survivor Series if they do want to bring him back. Sheamus, he's coming back. I could also see him feuding with Roman before WrestleMania, just as another opponent to get a body in there to work with Roman. Sheamus has been sidelined with a shoulder injury as his last match happened in a loss to Edge on August 18th on SmackDown. WWE's official website is advertising Sheamus for the November 24th, December 8th, and December 15th episodes of SmackDown, and it's unclear whether he will be a part of Survivor Series. It doesn't look like he will be a part of Survivor Series. November 24th is that Friday, right before Survivor Series. Can't see him factoring into anything because it doesn't make sense, but him back on television is always a good thing. I think the Brawling Brutes need him, and I think getting them back to full strength now with Triple H in charge, maybe they could take off and be a little bit better booked in 2024, but I don't think Sheamus is going to factor into anything Survivor Series. But I do think if they need an opponent for Roman Reigns on the road to WrestleMania, that Styles and Sheamus could provide that for Roman Reigns. WWE is considering a major change to the Survivor Series men's War Games match. Now, right now, the match includes Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Dominic Mysterio, and JD McDonough, Judgment Day, against Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, and Cody Rhodes. That's what's been announced as of Monday. The other matches on the show will include Rhea Ripley versus Zoe Stark and Gunther versus The Miz for the Intercontinental Championship. Rhea Ripley defending the Women's Championship against Zoe Stark. More matches, I'm assuming, will be announced in the coming week, but Meltzer wrote on The Observer that there were reports that this will change, and Drew McIntyre will be a part of the Judgment Day team. I was told that this is under consideration and could happen. That would lead to someone having to be added to the other side. Now, it could be a returning Randy Orton. It could be LA Knight. Could be John Cena. It could be Kevin Owens. And the reason why I say Kevin Owens is because he got suspended from SmackDown on Friday night. He promised Nick Aldis, who put him on commentary, that he would not get in any altercations, and he ended up saying, you know what, I'm going to get suspended after Austin Theory and Grayson Waller kind of poked fun at him and dumped water on him at the commentary table. So he got suspended from SmackDown, supposedly. Now he could show up on Monday Night Raw and be placed on the men's War Games team to help Cody and team with Sami again against Judgment Day, because they've been feuding with Judgment Day for the better portion of 2023, and it only makes sense for Kevin Owens to be there. Meanwhile, Randy Orton, I see people talking about Randy Orton still coming back at Survivor Series and him being the one to answer Nakamura's challenge, which I don't really find to be all that interesting. I think he probably fits better teaming with Cody, as he is a very good friend of Cody Rhodes. I don't know. I'm not liking Survivor Series. That's not a major change to me. I mean, I think everybody kind of was on that bandwagon anyway of them going to 5 versus 5 after the official 4 versus 4 announcement. And the people that we predicted were going to be Drew McIntyre because he's feuding with Seth, and he's clearly still upset that he lost to Seth at Crown Jewel, and then one other person on Team Cody, which could be anybody, Randy or Kevin Owens, depending on who they go with. I don't know. But at the end of the day, is WWE making the right changes to Survivor Series? They're not. I talked about this on my Friday night coverage of SmackDown. I think WWE right now has dropped the ball big time on Survivor Series. Instead of doing what they're doing now, it should be Bloodline, and it should be Judgment Day teaming together against Team Cody. Team Cody being comprised of Cody, Jay, Sami, LA Knight, and then maybe Randy Orton, where he fits in there trying to get revenge on the Bloodline. Those 5 against Bloodline and Judgment Day. You'd have Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, and Jimmy Uso. So not only do you get those stories being played out and finished. You'll also tie in the upcoming WrestleMania feuds, Jimmy and Jay, Roman and Cody. You do that as well. So I don't really understand why they think what they are doing right now is better than merging the Bloodline and the Judgment Day together on the heel side to go against Cody's team. Plus, you'll get LA Knight in that to get his revenge on the Bloodline for what they did at Crown Jewel. Now, the way you're looking at it, unless they do make this change, which I doubt, you're looking at the Survivor Series pay-per-view without LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, Jimmy Uso, and Roman Reigns. I mean, that's a lot of top-tier talent off the show. And what are you going to do if you keep the men's match the way that it is now and add McIntyre and add Rollins? What are you going to do with LA Knight? What are you going to do with Jimmy? What are you going to do with Solo? Are you going to leave them off the fucking show? Or are you going to give us some stupid tag team match and have Styles come back? This is where I said I'd mention Styles. Styles come back, team with LA Knight against Jimmy and Solo, being that Styles was put out by the Bloodline, and LA Knight wants revenge on the Bloodline, and they're going to put them in a dumb tag team match. It's going to be basically what we saw with Cena and LA Knight teaming against the Bloodline at Fastlane. That's lame. Nobody asked for that. Nobody wants that. So I don't know why they think that is potentially better than what I'm giving you right now. Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins should not be on the War Games teams. They should actually be doing match number 2 for the World Championship. McIntyre and Rollins at a banger match at Crown Jewel. They should be doing that again at Survivor Series. If Roman's not defending his championship, then Rollins should be defending his. I think that they've messed this up big time. So I don't know where they're going with that. And we will see. Things can change on Monday. And I hope that they make the changes that are necessary for Survivor Series. Because right now I'm not really all that intrigued with the men's. I don't want to say I'm not intrigued, but I'm not really fulfilled creatively with what they could have done better here for Survivor Series. The women's War Games match, we could potentially see a spoiler here for the women's War Games match. As of Friday, Io, Bayley, Kyrie, in a six-woman tag, defeated Bianca, Charlotte, and Asuka in the main event of SmackDown. Asuka turned heel by spitting mist in Bianca's face. She joined Damage CTRL, so we got Io, Bayley, Kyrie, and Asuka on one side, and we got Bianca, Charlotte, and Shotzi on the other, with one missing. Now, I don't know if they're going to keep it 4-on-4 or if we're going to get 5-on-5, but the rumor is right now, according to WrestleVotes, the rumor is that as of Friday, the match internally was listed, the Women's War Games match, as Io Sky, Bayley, Kairi Sane, and Asuka versus Charlotte Flair, Bianca Belair, and Shotzi. No fourth woman was announced yet. PW Insider reports the belief at SmackDown was the final member would be Becky Lynch, who disappeared from WWE television after losing the NXT Women's title to Tiffany Stratton. Does Becky really fit on that team? I feel like we're just putting Becky in there because they need the star power, and a team of Becky and Charlotte and Bianca is a star-studded team. But does Becky have anything to do with Damage CTRL? No. She's got history with Asuka. She's got history with Bayley. But has she been involved in what's going on with Damage CTRL now? No, she has not. I feel like they're just adding Becky Lynch because they got nothing for Becky Lynch to do, and it's best if they just put Becky Lynch in there so they get Becky Lynch on the show. I find that to be lame. Now, the women in this match, the amount of talent in this match, I mean, it should be a banger match. I'm excited to see a banger match, no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, I will say this. I gave you a positive. I'm going to have to give you a negative. I'm excited for the match just based off the talent. But the negative here is it doesn't really embody a War Games build. It doesn't. Now, Bianca and Damage CTRL, that's subjective. I mean, you want to do a War Games build, fine. But it's not intense enough. The heat isn't really there to warrant being in War Games, right? 8 women in War Games. I get why people would be excited about it, but I feel like they're just doing it because they have to give the women something because the men have it. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just would rather prefer the War Games to have some sort of intensity. I mean, Judgment Day has been running roughshod over Monday Night Raw and on SmackDown. I mean, they've been a thorn in everybody's ass. They've been a thorn in Sammy and KO and Cody, Jay. So, yeah, that should be played out in War Games. I just don't think that there's enough fuel coming out of the women's side to warrant a War Games match, and I just feel like it's forced. That's all I'm saying. But it should be a banger match. With the names listed here, should be a great match. But Becky Lynch being involved, I don't really know if that is something you guys care for. Listen, it's better than Tamina. It's better than a Natalya or a fucking Mia Yim or whoever else they want to go get. But Becky Lynch looks to be the fourth. I don't know how they're going to work that into the story, but it could be Becky. It could be Jade. That'd be a great debut for Jade Cargill. Get in there, team with Bianca. I don't know. I don't know if she's ready to go or if WWE wants to put her in that type of big spot in War Games, risking their big investment right out of the gate. I don't really know. So we'll see what happens with the War Games build, and we got 2 more SmackDowns to go before we get to War Games and Survivor Series. Is it going to be Becky? We'll find out soon enough, man. But thank you guys very much. Hopefully you enjoyed today's upload. If you did, please hit that thumbs up down below. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button as well. Turn on the bell for notifications and go check out all of the other content on the channel. There is plenty of it for you. I will not see you tonight for AEW Collision. I will see you when the news breaks. Again, potentially on Sunday, right here for more on Off the Script. I'll see you guys later.